Another major event coming up on the world stage is the meeting between Trump and Xi of China, scheduled for the end of this month. There are trade and defense issues that the two leaders will address that will no doubt have an effect on the rest of the world. India shares a border with China and has a trade relationship as well. So, how are you seeing this visit, and how do you feel about China's place in the world, given that many of their proxies have recently been targeted by the US?
Well, India has an important and um, challenging relationship with China. It is a very competitive relationship along multiple dimensions. The two countries have a very large border dispute, which has become increasingly militarized. And in fact, in 2020, we had the first fatal clashes on that border between the Indian and Chinese militaries in over 3 decades. You also have competition in the region for influence in the Indian Ocean region and South Asia, where China is seen as acting in certain ways that are inimical to Indian interests in the broader region. You have competition over economic issues and trade issues.
Yeah.
And you also have competition in multilateral institutions as well, including the United Nations. So it is quite a competitive relationship and remains so. On the economic side, India has about $100 billion trade deficit with China, which is quite large and unsustainable, I think most people would assess. And
Yeah.
so I think the challenge is now how to, despite wanting cooperation and ideally India would like more market access in China.
Yeah.
But it has remained for a variety of reasons a very imbalanced trade relationship. Just recently, just in the last couple of days, the Indian government actually lowered some restrictions on Chinese investment into India. In the wake of those 2020 clashes, India imposed a raft of restrictions on Chinese technology, banned TikTok, for example, also some put restrictions on Chinese ownership of certain companies in certain sectors. Chinese companies couldn't bid in like government contracts for procurement. So the pretty sweeping measures that were put in place in 2020, and some of those are starting to now be revisited. And again, we saw a minor dilution of some of the investment restrictions in certain sectors. So I think that
India was acting a little more clear-eyed about China than even the US was in some cases.
I think in some cases it was really motivated by the clashes. I mean, I think the trigger point was that some of these steps had been contemplated earlier, but had really kind of that forced a lot of that to happen. I think there's a question of how to rebalance it. There's